Omaha is projected to surpass the 1 million mark in the next 2 years. While this seems like good news, the transit system is already struggling to keep up with growth. As birth rates skyrocket and immigration continues, one UNO student exemplifies the harsh reality of this. Number 55. It's said to possess a spiritual power, independence, self-sufficiency, and even adventure. For UNO senior Jazmin Pineda, the double digit is also her proverbial lifeline. Route 55 takes her to work, college classes, healthcare appointments, and even to see her family.
Because I feel like most of the time, since it takes up so much of my time, I feel like I lose myself with just being a student and like an employee. Like I don't have time to do anything outside of that.
Before the sun rises, she feeds her cats, gathers her belongings according to the day. If it's a work day or a school day, she still faces a 15-minute walk to get to the nearest bus stop. From there, it's a long haul to get to the area transit close to the university. Once there, it's another hike for Jazmin to get to Mav Landing, the site where she boards her final shuttle to North Campus. All about a 45 to 60-minute commute on a good day. But those good days will be fewer as the cold winter season in Nebraska kicks in.
Having your employer call you at the last minute when you're at the store telling you we're closed and you walked and you're now stuck in the middle of a snowstorm. I think that's something I don't want to experience again, personally.
The journalism and media communication major moved from her South Omaha community to an apartment in West Omaha, an area where she says she often feels like an outsider. Still, Jazmin says she's never second-guessed pursuing her passion for storytelling, despite hauling the some 50 pounds of awkward gear.
So I had to actually drop my media storytelling class because of that. And it was during a time where I also was like working really hard that like I got a swollen ankle, so I couldn't carry any of the equipment because it was that same size, the tripod, the camera, and so I had to drop my media storytelling class for that semester.
The elements challenge even the best of Omaha drivers, but the wind, snow, ice, and sub-freezing temperatures of winter proves to make public transportation incredibly unpredictable.
I've seen 2 buses stop working at once. One came to pick up the people riding the bus, and it also stopped working. So it puts a lot of people behind on schedule, or sometimes the bus drivers won't stop for you for whatever reason, so then you have to wait for the next one.
Not only is it challenging physically to get much needed care in a case like this, it also impacts Jazmin emotionally, because what may be a simple imposition to a person with a car, it goes deeper for Jazmin. Missing a class impacts her grades, which impacts her scholarship. By being absent, she doesn't get the materials for the day. She misses important class discussion, and she can even lose attendance and participation points. Again, another unintended consequence when a city of almost 1 million residents doesn't provide good public transportation.
I'd really like to see Omaha get real about just the transportation ecosystem and like a network that all works together. You know, yes, there will always be folks that need to drive cars, and that's fine. We're not going to try to take anyone's car keys away. But what we do need to do is make sure that those folks who don't have the choice to drive are also able to get around Omaha, whether it's to healthcare, to jobs, to grocery stores. I mean, there's a lot, transportation touches everything.
Moving from Acapulco to Omaha when she was 4, Jazmin sported a maturity beyond her years. Her school and community were in walking distance, but by the time she turned 10, she learned to navigate Omaha's public transportation system out of necessity.
It just became a part of my daily life, trying to get anywhere, and then I moved out, and then I really had to rely on it to go to doctor's appointments, grocery shopping, basically any errand or anything I needed to do.
Jazmin says with the creation of Orbit, her experience getting to and from her destination is much easier because of the consistency the bus service provides. It's even better because it's free for university students. Nevertheless, there are times when riding the bus in inclement weather is the least of her worries.
Even just the waiting stations, having that information of, oh, the next bus comes in X amount of time, or even just the way that's nicely built. Some bus stops don't even have benches, or there's sometimes at night, especially for a young girl like me, it can get like very dangerous, and I've had like certain scary encounters with people. There's like no lighting, no benches, and it's raining, and then.
The storyteller in her enjoys the time observing the good and the bad of our community. Jazmin says she's seen bus drivers simply pass her at the stop, while others she claims don't provide a sense of safety for their passengers.
Where I took one of the buses from my home downtown, and there was a man who was talking to me, and he was trying to follow me all the way to campus. And I was visibly uncomfortable, and no one did anything. I've had men yell at me, and no one says anything. I've seen it happen to other people.
This fall, Metro Transit added touchless payments. The app allows people to pay for their fare and also gives tech-savvy riders like Jazmin the ability to track her bus.
$1.50.
That translates to less time spent waiting and wondering. Latrina Hall says, while it's a step forward, that may not work for all users.
I think that's why school districts are thinking through how they're providing the actual devices and Wi-Fi to students when it comes to education. So I don't know if using that same type of approach is possible for a public transportation organization, but there does need to be some thought about the folks who could kind of fall through the cracks when it comes to that.
The common denominator for Omaha's future comes down to greenbacks. Progress takes time and money. As the old saying goes, time waits for no one. But money can be found in the signing of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, or IIJA, by President Joe Biden November 5th. The White House media release says the $1 trillion investment, the largest in the nation's history, will provide $89.9 billion in guaranteed funding over the next 5 years. Executive Director Mike Helgerson says the federal money will be in addition to the already nearly $17 million the association already receives. However, he cautions it's too early to tell how and where the money will be spent.
Well, so currently we get about $16 to $17 million a year of project funding, let's say. So that, that's for everything from roads to bridges to, transit bus replacements to all of that stuff. It's about 17 or 18, I guess now. It's difficult to say because the way the math works out, so the total pool of funding is growing, but the amount that's allocated to organizations like us is growing, and our population has grown. And so it's difficult to kind of suss out exactly what that number would be, but certainly, I would say a rough estimate of more than 25%, 25 to 33%, possibly more. So that, $18 million number might become something more like $25 million. It might be more. We don't really know. And so it's difficult to do the math without Congress kind of finishing their work.
He says the 33% increase is enough to add a couple additional projects each year. This is in addition to other federal, state, and private funding provided.
And that's just in that first $1 trillion. Whatever this second $1.7 trillion ends up being, that's a whole different ballgame. There might be some opportunities to find ways of investing in transportation through some of those programs as well.
Remember that Metro Next plan and the 24th Street corridor investment?
And that begins with Metro Next, the 5-year plan to build a transportation system across 24th Street.
Big numbers. We don't normally talk about $1 trillion, so it's kind of hard to wrap our heads around it.
MAPA is an intergovernmental organization, according to Mike. It creates the long-term public transportation plan, and it also invests federal resources. MAPA is the source for ongoing planning and can act as a sort of a watchdog for economic growth. Mike says his group focuses on the people of our community and their access to opportunity.
But certainly kind of a core of all of that, and the way that we kind of cross-cut looking at all those goals together at the same time, is really walkable communities connected by transit, connected by other modes of transportation outside of the vehicle, and really trying to grow our community in that direction.
which is exactly what Jazmin loves so much about her South Omaha community.
Immigrant or not, a lot of people are tied back to the same places they immigrated from. So, I mean, because of my parents and how talkative they are, I've met people who come from the same towns that I did or that they did. And it feels like such a small world at the same time. So there's just a big sense of community.
You're listening to my radio.
Jazmin says at the end of a busy 8-hour day, excluding her 2 hours spent in transit, she regrets nothing about her decisions.
I think just to have that creative freedom in general, for me, to me, the possibilities are endless with what I can do with that.
And those seemingly endless hours spent walking, waiting, and writing, Jazmin calls herself fortunate.
I'm inspired just by the normalcy of things around me. I think that's one of the best things that have come out of taking public transportation, like meeting new people, even people who just dump their stories on me, and I'm just like, wow, that even inspires me to write my own stories.
Besides the dream of creating content through her writing, photography, and video production skills, Jazmin has another dream, and that's to get back to her South Omaha community, where she says her banking, grocery store, small businesses, and friends are all on the same street.
It's like being homesick.
As the first snow of the year arrives, the little girl who immigrated to a new country at 4, learned a city's culture by 10, and is set to graduate with her bachelor's degree in May, will take the exam for her Nebraska Class O license. The woman, with a dream of telling stories, credits her perseverance with getting her this far. And perhaps she'll start a career by telling her own story. And the title of it?
From nowhere. I think that's what I would do. Because I think a lot of the times that's what it feels like. I'm from here, but I'm not from there. But I'm from there, but not also from here. So I think that's what I would title it.